go, Tony D. I have a very impactful issue of The Punisher. The Tyger. This is a one-shot. This was when they had the Max imprint. Garth Ennis on the pencils, John Severin on the art. They both deliver big time on this one. This is very haunting, and it's an original tale that, I mean, it really trades the bullets and the violence for poetry and introspection. And you really wouldn't get that with a typical Punisher book, but this really peels back the layers of that onion, and you get more, I wouldn't call it an origin story, but the building of an origin maybe. It's really hard because the Punisher is such a complex character in this world of heroes, and his code and the tragedy he's been through. It's a lot. That's why I like the Punisher, not just because of the action, but really there's something deeper in there with that trauma and that, you know, tragedy that he went through. And Garth Ennis really crafts a tale that takes us back when he's a child, where you really see some of that personality starting to build. Like, all you need is just one tragic thing to tip it over. But let's get into it. He's on a rooftop. He's on a reconnaissance mission. I wouldn't call it reconnaissance. He's out for somebody, and it's never good. He's reflecting, and now he's reflecting back to when he was a child. Not sure of the age. But it's all based around a poem called The Tyger, written by William Blake. And we'll get to the poem, but this is at his dad's work. And Frank is outside waiting on him. So this is going on. And this is the 60s. So that's an important time period where a lot of Wild West type stuff could be going on with unions and stuff of that nature. And there's our guy Frank as a youngster. He's 10. It says he's 10 years old. And the artist, even right here at the beginning, this is very important, where you capture Frank analyzing. I mean, you can see on his face, he's studying what's going on. Look, everyone behind him, they're shocked. He's watching, he's analyzing. And he does this through the whole book. It's really masterful, like right here. Very calculated. He's already like a soldier at 10. So this tragic episode that happened was somebody was bucking up to the unions, and there's a crime family called the Rosas, and Frank's father and mother are talking about it, and they're really just brushing it under the rug. They obviously know the bad that's happening, but it's one of those situations where you just be quiet and you move on and you'll be okay. And Frank's very curious about this. He's not just buying into the, okay, that's how you should be. He's thinking about it. And the interactions with his parents are very telling, because they really are setting up for the tragic incidents that happen later on with the whole turn the cheek, don't cause any problems, just go on your way. Nothing to see here. He also knows that his parents need their time, and he's okay with that. Like, he just takes off, does his thing. He's a very smart child, very smart kid. This is his friend. Her name's Lauren. And they go to a book club together. This is her big brother. He plays an important part. He's in the Marines, and Frank is really interested in that. Talks to him about it. This guy's real cool for a Marine. He's giving Frank the lowdown about what's going on with what he does in the Marines. And the brother's really cool. He likes to see that they're hanging out, doing something constructive, that sort of thing. But you see he's still calculating, still thinking. If you notice, this is the first time he kind of cracks a smile, and he's talking about what kind of guns you have in the Marines. So, yeah, he's into that. So they read this poem called The Tyger. And it's really, the Tyger when the preacher reads it, it has a religious type of story, or it's really he's interpreting it as a religious type of story with a lesson to be learned from that. And Frank, while he's reading it, he's thinking about more of, has to do with a protector. And he's looking at it like that. And he reminisces about seeing tigers at the zoo and how they're majestic. And he doesn't really like how they're caged, but he's developing what he thinks about this poem, and it's very deep, where he's looking at it like the tiger is a protector of the innocent. You know, the tiger would not know mercy, no remorse. Even the concept of stopping, not having been constructed with those qualities in mind, a force made of flesh. So it's really, it's born that way, which really mirrors, I believe, how the Punisher was born in his qualities. He's seeing himself in this poem, is the way I'm interpreting it. But the preacher sees it differently and gives his interpretation, really the biblical type of interpretation. And it even gets into, like, Frank is asking, God didn't make the tiger? Like, he's getting into that philosophical discussion of, does God create the things necessary to pretty much take care of business? And Lauren sticks up for Frank, like, hey, let him interpret it the way he wants to interpret it. So they leave, and that really gave you a setup of how Frank thinks, and just that mindset of the Punisher, even at the age of 10. And he's always like, his interactions with his friends is very subtle. He's very quiet, and he's more analyzing than anything, even with his friends. But here we get to where we have tragedy, and they're trying to figure out why she did what she did. And you see Frank is still analyzing. People are looking away. Like, the artist did a fantastic job of facial expressions, and Frank's very stoic, like, just watching. So you get more interaction from the parents here, where Frank is hearing this, and you see, like, there's bright colors with his parents, but then it mutes very quickly. The color palette was done in this very fantastic as well. And you're really getting into why the girl did what she did. And one of the sons in the Rose's family he's pretty much a womanizer, and that's the guy. Just a teenager, but he's not a good guy. He totally uses women. And Lauren is like just telling him this, that's just how things are, you know, nothing's gonna happen. This is really a bunch of dialogue about how, okay, the family's not to be touched, they're mobsters. And Frank even has a thought down here that's very important, where he's like, that's the trouble of being 10, you're not equipped. He's already thinking justice. His worldview is being shaped. Garth Ennis does a wonderful job with that. I love this shot with the knowledge. There's more to the Punisher than just the surface value action. He's hanging out with Lauren, and they're building a relationship. And so this is very important, where he's seeing the different animals, how they are like protectors, and it's always been that way. He says it's like the day he realized there had always been tigers, even in the past, living in the darkness, even in your dreams. He goes that deep. It's very poetic. He even talks about how less alive for being gone from the physical world, emerging at times it suited them to stalk, to terrify, to overwhelm. He's understanding in his way. It's really how this whole system is set up, the circle of life, and the purpose of things of this nature. This is kind of funny. She mentions, why do boys always like monsters? And he's analyzing, he's thinking, he's calculating. And he's surprised there. She gives him a little peck, Nagers. And then Frank decides to do something about this Rosa kid. So he helps out this kid being picked on right here. He really tricks him into giving him some information on it. And what happened was the Rosa kid got her pregnant and she just couldn't deal with it. And he goes into detail about it. He totally, and Frank is, you can see by the furrowed brow, like, okay, something's got to be done. So he went to go see Lauren, and she was out, and she's just missing the whole time. And then he goes to talk to her, and she's visibly upset. And Frank has developed a relationship with her, like, more than just surface level. It's a little deeper, you know, from them hanging out. I wouldn't say love or anything like that, but I would say like an endearing friendship. And Frank goes to check on her, and it's another tragedy. This is very important. The blackness with the lettering. This has something to do with, this will tie in later on, and he's seeing something very tragic that's very dear to him. So the parents are talking again, and the mother, she is very upfront about it, about how it happened and what happened. And the father's, you didn't see anything, just move on. And she finds out that the father did try to do something, and he explains to her that they went to rough this person up, and you see he's shaking, and it does not go their way. The mobsters take one of them and really work him over to a point where Frank's father is just shaking, and he feels like, I'm getting the impression that he's got to be quiet to protect his family type of situation. And there's Frank observing. If you notice, it's always dark when Frank is like observing, a very muted palette, even right here. So Frank goes. He's equipping himself. Like he alluded to earlier, kids aren't equipped to deal with things, so he does it. So there's the Rosa kid, and they're just yucking it up. And Frank is hearing this. And Frank tricks him with a phone call to meet him somewhere. And Lauren's brother shows up, the Marine, and Frank is watching this. And he has revenge. Very dark palette. This is very dramatic. He takes him out right there. I mean, he even like pours gas. And this is where you see Frank's face actually change from methodical, figuring out, planning, to, oh wow, it could be like this. And it does. And then he goes back to, I think he feels like justice is being served. And this is a very bookend type moment. When I say bookend, some books, I think it's very artfully done, where you go from this scene right here with the flames, and then close to the end, flames again. And one thing about flames that I always think about when I'm reading stuff like this is like a birth, a phoenix, a rising, a birth. And it's like maybe Frank this is part of his rise. He even mentions Tyger. He's a tiger. He's protecting the innocent, making right what was wrong. So in the aftermath of what's going on, it's really the typical thing after something like that. But like, no, it's covered up very well. I'll put that, where nothing else happens. So we flash forward to Frank join the Marines. And you see here, he's not really close with people. He's still calculating. Still has that same qualities as a 10-year-old. And he finds out that he's close to Lauren's brother that got justice for her. And he ends up, tragedy there. And Frank is very Very stoic, still very, very intent looking. Like this is the way it is. It's like he's come to terms with life the way he sees his worldview. The writing in here is totally worth getting. It's very poetic. It's very artfully done. And then they go to a scene where he explains what's all going on with the military, and he's become a problem solver. He's becoming good at what he does, and he talks about how he was out on a mission and he actually runs into a tiger. I thought, wow, Garth Ennis just nailed it with this. And they just stare at each other. And even he mentions to this day he doesn't know if that was real, if he imagined it, just filling in gaps. You know how you do with your memory. But I thought, wow. And just this dark silhouette, back to the present day. He's taking care of his business, and that's what he does. And what was really artfully done about this is total chaos here, right? It goes to, he's doing all this, a lot of chaos, and I was kind of tricked at first. I thought that this next page was more this, but it's really a call out to the beginning of the Punisher. It's right here. Perfect. It's just black. I won't read it to you, but it's like he's in the hospital and the doctors are pretty much lying to him about they didn't feel a thing, this and that. And one guy speaks up and he's like, the guy was conscious through the whole tragedy. And look at his eyes, just his eyes. And this whole issue, there's tons of shots of his eyes. And then you flip to here, and then there's more of it. Like these pages right here, just black, with that lettering flowing down, is totally worth buying. If you're a Punisher fan, if you're into that. It's more than just superheroes. There's a lot of stuff that goes on. And then the ending. This is a classic for me. Like I said, the Punisher is a very intriguing character. And so I enjoy these when a writer really gets deep into it. And every panel in there served a purpose. Whether it was building atmosphere, revealing a character, deepening the tragedy. And the writing is very introspective. And it balances a lot of grit with vulnerability. You really get that feel and that vibe. And the poem is just not a poem. It was like a mirror of Frank Castle seeing himself, being that Tyger, that protector. So if you're into old school style stuff, it's a little retro. It's definitely not for everyone, but very impactful. Outro, get it.